Hey everybody. All right. Let's discuss everything that's going on with a calm, cool head and not rush into not rush into despair too quickly. Cuz that's important. You don't want to get too bearish too quickly on a strong downside day. Um and forget all of the structure that price has made over the past couple of months. So I definitely get the disappointment. Trust me, I do. I'm also quite disappointed myself. This is pretty brutal. So not gonna pretend that I'm immune to it. It hurts, but it's so important to keep track of the macro. And in the macro, nothing really looks wrong. So let's get into it. So I was speaking on Friday about what 2020 GME holders had to go through in order to get their melt up. And when I spoke about this, um, I'll just put it on the chart one more time, but you guys will see there was some severe pullbacks during this entire rally. So we had a 28% drop there. We had a 16% drop there. We had a 34% drop there, and a 37% drop there, and finally a 23% drop before liftoff. And imagine, holding the stock during this time period, and Roaring Kitty obviously did. There was so much negativity on all these drops. Like, what's going on? Are things still going to be okay? And what could have helped you been at ease during all these drops was knowing that because the daily trigger is above the weekly and the monthly triggers, everything is still bullish on the macro, and even when there's big dips, they are still very likely to get bought up very quickly. So you wouldn't have really been concerned in the long run during these pullbacks, because you know that history is in your favor, that once the weekly trigger and the monthly trigger are strong bullish, you're going to be bound to get that dip buys each time price pulls back. So when you go now towards 2025, where we're at currently, short price was holding the daily trigger this entire time, which is really encouraging. And then we even started getting the dip spot well before the daily trigger. But one second, here we go. But what keeps me at ease here is that the weekly and the monthly are still strong bullish. So just like all of these dips were bought up because the weekly and the monthly were strong bullish, so too we're very likely to see the same thing here. So yeah, I mean, listen, the guys that are throwing their life savings in shorter dated calls, they're obviously going to be disappointed or be upset. But as a macro bull on GameStop, which is what I am, and yeah, sure, I'll take some options bets when I think things look good, because I'm trying to make a killing on an actual melt up. But as soon as things look bad, I cut my losses and move on, knowing that I gave it a good shot. If it worked, I would have been super happy, and if it didn't work, I just have to accept that loss and move on. So again, you have to think about what we would have seen if we were back here in 2020. Like, again, really brutal drops before price was actually able to take off. And this isn't exactly super brutal right now. Like, sure, prices pulled back 16%. Back in 2020, if you wanted this melt up, you would have had to sit through a 28% drop, then a 16% drop, then a 34% drop, then a 37% drop, then a 23% drop before things actually went up. And sure, again, we spoke about this on Friday, Rocky, I did think December period, around the 20th, looked very promising based on last cycle, if it was correlated to the halving cycles. and we gave it a try, and we did get like this little pop here with a kitty tweet around the 20th, but the move didn't materialize, and that's it. Like when I look for dates to see when the move might happen, I'm not like betting my life savings in it or anything. I'm taking a bet based on like the time frame that I think it could work out. But like I trade the chart at the end of the day, so as soon as something like that gets invalidated, then I'll quickly be out. But my main point, I guess, here is that we've had a couple of times, even in 2020, where sure, price lost the daily trigger, but because the daily trigger is above the weekly and the monthly trigger, you still get these bounces at like the weekly clouds. You can see here in the weekly cloud, as soon as it hit that blue shaded region, we got that bounce, then pinned for a while before another big upside move. And even here again, price had a really big drop, pulled back into the weekly cloud, and then bounced. And once it got back up through that daily trigger here, you could see that massive upside move. So I think we're going to set up something similar here. No big deal in the grand scheme of things. The only big deal in the grand scheme of things is losing this monthly trigger, which of course is extremely unlikely. So again, like many people are just bugging out about nothing, in my opinion. I think the only people that are really bugging out is the ones that just took too big of an options bet, and that wasn't about me. Like if you did that, you know it's not about me. I mean, you can bash me all you want and you can troll me all you want, but you did that because you read some tin and you thought that there was a very good chance of it happening now. And honestly, I also thought there was a pretty good chance of it happening now, and I also took my loss. But I took it like a man because I knew that if it would have worked, I would have made many hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it would have been very worth it. So it didn't work, and that's what trading is. Like as soon as we lost the daily trigger over here, I was like, okay, fine, this is looking bad, and time to accept my loss and move on. Wait for the next opportunity to do so. So I think we're gonna set up either similar to this pullback or this pullback, where either we're gonna go through this choppy period for a bit before eventually lifting back up to the upside. So again, Julian, to be clear, I don't claim for a move to happen. I thought there was a great chance that the move would happen in December. And in my Discord, as soon as the move didn't materialize towards the end of December, I rolled my options. Like if you're taking positions based on what I'm posting on Twitter and then not keeping up with it at all, like again, that's something that only you and you could take blame for. I'm very clear about my positions. I'm very clear about the risks that I'm taking, and I'm always giving invalidations for all my trades. For example, in this case, it was losing the daily trigger, losing 30. That was a strict invalidation for me. So if people are going and YOLOing their life savings into shorter dated options because I said that I think the move can happen in December based off last cycle, then again, like if you want to blame me for it, go for it. I'm not going to stop you. If you want to write nasty things in my tweets because you did that, go for it. I'm not going to stop you. But I think if you take a longer look in the mirror, you'll realize that that's something that you chose to do. And, you know, that the loss is on you. I take care that if things aren't looking good during the time frame that I suggested that things might go down, then I'm quickly going to be rolling. So again, I think we're gonna be shaping up for something like this or like this, where price is gonna pull back below the daily trigger here, catch support on the weekly cloud. Either it's gonna pin for a while before making the next upside move, or it's gonna catch support at the weekly cloud right here and then start to turn up immediately right away. And upon breaking back above the daily trigger here, like you saw here, that's when you'd expect this next monster run, followed by a little pullback, and then the melt up. So I'm for sure still fully bullish on a melt up. Like this drop doesn't change anything in the short term. Sure, things turned a little bearish once price lost the daily trigger, and that's why you saw this downside acceleration happen right after that break of the daily trigger. But in the long term, guys, like seriously, this is so obviously still gonna melt up. Once the weekly trigger crosses the monthly trigger, that means that the melt up is coming. So yeah, it's been tough to time. I'm gonna be the last one to say that this hasn't been a tough trade to time. This has been tough. Like I think a lot of people thought it would happen a lot earlier, and especially like when Roaring Kitty is tweeting like these cryptic tweets, like it does make it seem like we're probably in for a move to happen pretty soon. not something that we'd be have to waiting for a long time. So again, like short, is it painful in the short term? Yeah. Is it annoying in the short term? Yeah. Does that change anything about the Meltup thesis? Absolutely not. More than likely, we're going to play out one of these two moves where once we catch support in this weekly cloud right here, we'll either pin for a while, and then once we break up through the daily trigger, we'll explode again. Or we'll take a quick dip down to the monthly cloud here, to the weekly cloud here right now, this blue shaded region, and then followed by a quick recovery. And once breaking above the daily trigger here, you'll get that next big move to the upside. Why is the melt up so obvious? I don't understand why you're certain. What if it goes up like Tesla after short started to close? So again, like once the weekly trigger crosses above the monthly trigger in highly shorted stocks, that's usually a sign that the melt up is pretty much certain to happen, based on many of the shorted stocks that I've been tracking and that I've watched the setups for. So I don't really have any longer term concerns. I still think that that once this pullback is over, we're going to move right back to the upside again. So why I think the melt up is obvious is very simple, because it's a highly shorted stock, and the upside momentum will eventually be too much pressure for shorts to withstand, and then that'll snowball into short covering, pushing the stock price much higher. That's why I think so. If any of you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. But overall, pretty confident that we'll catch support within this blue shaded region here, and then turn back to the upside for another big push. So again, in the shorter term, things have turned bearish with the loss of the daily trigger. But in the longer term, still looks extremely similar to the buildup that we had in 2020 before the melt up got underway. Yeah, of course I hold my shares. I'll buy more if we get into this weekly cloud here, because that's the next good dip buy spot. But not in a rush. Just going to keep tracking it as it goes and take it step by step. The only thing that would invalidate the melt up is losing the monthly trigger and then the weekly trigger crossing back below the monthly trigger. That's really the only thing that can possibly invalidate this setup. And more than likely, price will melt up and not get invalidated. It's very, very, very low percentage odds that the setup will get invalidated rather than completing the melt up. All right, so I just wanted to hop on here and explain that, yeah, sure, in the shorter term, losing the daily trigger was a little bit of a setback, and the place where I personally closed off my options and took a little loss. But in the long term, I think things are extremely promising for Meltup. I'll be looking to dip buy around this range once we get into the weekly cloud, and that's it. Again, if you're a man of patience and you don't need things to happen immediately, then this is still a great setup. Even in 2020, we saw a couple of dips back below the daily trigger, and it wasn't a big deal. Once price got back up through the daily trigger, things exploded to the upside. So really no longer term concerns for me. And I believe that this setup will be fine in the long run, and I do believe 100% that the melt up will still take place probably once this dip gets finished here. So thank you guys for tuning in. Hope I was able to alleviate some fears. Again, I do these videos just because I really want the whole GME community to win. And I did think it would happen a little bit earlier, but again, we're talking about not even a month ago. So still in the general time frame of where I'd expect something to go down. I want to see this dip get bought up in this blue cloud here, and then continue to march to the upside. Just like here, where we saw every single pullback get bought back up before it eventually morphed into a melt up. So thank you guys for tuning in, and